create a permit for delivery vehicles. This matter was sponsored by Mayor Walsh and referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on August the 1st of 2018. This ordinance seeks to create a parkway or street occupancy permit for delivery vehicles. These permits will ultimately be issued online. The amendment would also provide that there is no surety bond requirement for the permit. I'd like to note that this hearing is being recorded but will be broadcast at a later date on Comcast Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Verizon Channel 1964. Also streamlined on the Boston City Council TV online. Joining us today is the Director of Strategic Initiatives in the Boston Transportation and Public Works Department, Dan Lesser. I now turn it over to Dan to introduce himself and discuss this ordinance in greater detail. So, Dan, you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Glad to be here. So, we put this ordinance forward partly as a process. Over the last 6 months, we've been thinking about how do we make moving truck permits much more customer friendly. And out of that process, we redid the online experience, and we also went from a two-step process. We had to go from Transportation and Public Works Department to a one-step process on the second floor. Out of that process, working with the BTD and Public Works staff, they highlighted the fact that often residents ask for permits for delivery vehicles. So usually that means like a washing machine, a couch, other large deliveries, that right now there's no permit for that, or there's a general permit, but you have to get a bond. So you have to be bonded in the system. And for a resident who's getting a one-time delivery, that's a pretty high mark that we're asking them to go forward with. And it makes more sense for like a construction company or other things where we're really worried about they're damaging the street. And so in the for moving trucks, we took away the need for a bond a number of years ago. And we want to do the same thing with delivery vehicles so that a resident can go online or in person and reserve space on the curb for a delivery truck.
All right, so this is different from, say, like a local business district where, you know, a Poland Springs truck pulls up, or a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi truck or a Frito-Lay truck, and they're unloading soda and chips and what have to a convenience store or to a local supermarket. This is in the neighborhoods where you might have construction equipment being delivered to your house, or an HVAC or something being maybe lifted onto your roof. Is that the type of vehicles we're talking about?
So I think it could be used for commercial vehicles like a Poland Springs truck. We think it wouldn't be. Those type of companies who are making lots of deliveries, you'd have to put up these signs 2 days in advance. It would cost $69 per day. And so I think it more makes sense if you have a vehicle coming to your house and will spend, 15 minutes to a few hours there, and you want to make sure there's space and so they're not double parking and causing congestion.
Does that include like UPS or Federal Express, those types of deliveries, or?
So they could do that. I don't think because they're doing so many small deliveries, I don't think they think it would be worth it, and they would have to go out days ahead of time to each spot and spend $69 per spot. And so I think, and they could do that now, and they haven't. So I think we're seeing this more as homeowners who have a one-time need for this, as a company is coming to deliver something.
So you ordered a bedroom set from a furniture store, the furniture truck shows up, and they're gonna bring the bed, the dresser, all,
Exactly.
the lamp, what have you, and either assemble it or just drop and go?
Exactly. And I think we're assuming maybe drop and go, they wouldn't do it.
And in that instance, they're gonna be able to pull to the curb, or they're gonna be able to double park, or they're gonna be able to?
They would be able to pull the curb, they'd be able to reserve space similar to a moving truck. Right. So they put up signs and say that.
And the onus would be on who? The resident to put on the sign, or the train station? I'm going to run out and do the signs, or does the furniture store have to come out?
It'd be whoever. Whoever took the permit out. So usually that would be the homeowner, and so they would put it out a couple days in advance. Or if the company wanted to do it, they also could do that. Similar to how like Gentle Giant, the moving truck company, will do that now.
And then, so if there was a specific neighborhood or a portion of the city where this kind of percolated, was there a hue and cry from a neighborhood or civic association or a resident in order to do this?
It hasn't been any specific resident or neighborhood association. I think just over time, once a month or a couple of times a month, our permitting staff get a request for people to get a permit for a delivery truck, and they have to say, you only really can get a permit for a moving truck.
Right. One of my concerns is when you call, sometimes the delivery company gives you a window, and there are times when they don't window. So I guess what are the requirements on your end to make this as tight as possible? You particularly in neighborhoods where parking is at a premium, there are no spots, and you come home and you see 3, 4 spaces that have the signs, "Don't park here," on today, September 24th, between the hours of, how wide are we giving these delivery companies? Because it ain't all day, because I'm not going to support an all-day. It has to be a limited window as to, a finite universe, a defined start and defined finish. Oh, by the way, if the delivery hasn't been made by a certain time, the car should be able to park there.
Yep.
If they have to double park and unload, then they got to do what they got to do. But, so what were you envisioning for that window? Is it a 2-hour window? Is it a 3-hour window? But it most definitely can't be an 8, 10, 12-hour window.
I think we've been thinking about it, treating it similar to moving trucks, where it is a 7 to 5 or 8 to 6 window. I think we can definitely hear your concern and take that back and consider having a smaller window.
Yeah, I mean, particularly where there's, if there's metered spots, we're missing out on that revenue, and it's a $50 fee?
It would be $50 plus the cost of the signs and administrative fee, so in all, it would be $69.
Yeah.
And we would charge for the meters if it was a metered spot, so it would be $69 plus the meter fee.
Right. Yeah, this ordinance, I'd like to, hear from my district colleagues, particularly those that are in sort of densely populated, and particularly in around the downtown, sort of Back Bay, Beacon Hill, South End, North End, South Boston, where again, streets are narrow, parking's tight. I would argue they're not gonna go for a 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. window. We're gonna have to do a little bit better than that. Quite frankly, I think the homeowner would probably appreciate a little nudge on our end to close that window that the delivery company has to come, because we've all been there. You call, ask for a delivery, and they give you that 4 or 5 window, and you're sitting around all day long waiting for them, and then they literally show up 15 minutes before the window's going to close. And had you known, you could have gone out, ran some errands, did this, that, and the other thing. So I think, sort of tightening there. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Councilor McCarthy.
I think Council Flaherty brings up a great point. I envisioned when I read it, the same thing was, Jordan's Furniture's coming, they're going to drop off your sofa 12 to 3. The sign, so we just picked up signs down in the train station regarding the Rosnell Festival that's happening, where we block a street off. So we have the signs in hand, they've got the ropes on, they're ready to go. All those instructions will the sticker that will be on the sign, will there be a sticker created for the sign that says, the 24th of September from whatever time to whatever time, that sticker will be created and stuck on then, or is it going to be the magic marker? And then that would be my one question. My second question would be, as far as BTD enforcement, I would want to make sure that it was on the enforcement unit's daily sheet, and maybe even the captain of the district's morning sheet, just in case, because, if you're in, I'm just going to say Back Bay, and you're on Marlborough Street, you've blocked off 4 spaces, and your truck's coming to bring your brand new sofa, and then somebody parks there, then you've paid the $69 and you've not had the enforcement. So that would be the call that we'd ultimately get, saying you whacked me for $69, and we still block traffic all day. So, but I think those are good points.
Yep. Yeah, so it would have a sticker saying the address and the time of the reserved parking spaces.
Sure.
And then there would be 2 spaces, and then, the enforcement of that is really important.
Right.
That if somebody's in your spot, we give you the number for the police tow line. We encourage you to call early, so that, because sometimes it takes a while for the police to come out and go through the process.
Right.
And then I think also using it fairly, right? We don't want people to do 4 or 5 spots when parking is at a premium. And I think the question about time of day is really important as well.
Right.
But also the way it works now is that the onus is on the person pulling the permit to have to also flyer the neighborhood. And you see the notices that are on the cars and the doors, just so that there's no unsuspecting resident or motorist that may be working that night and comes back the next day, parks in that spot, next thing you know, they're in the spot where. So I don't know if that onus is going to be there. And then I guess is what if someone what if someone gets if this ordinance passes, what happens if someone gets a delivery and they don't get the permit?
Yep, so first on the onus on the flyering, it'd be, yeah, we would treat it the same way as moving trucks. It would be, that we'd ask them to flyer the cars twice, 2 days and 1 day before, so everybody knows.
Right, so then I would assume that that's gonna be more the resident, that's not gonna be like the Jordan's Furniture guy coming over 24 hours before leafleting, you know.
Exactly, yep.
What's it, Elliot, what's his name, did you see that?
Yeah, Elliot, the guy.
Yeah, Elliot, so he'll be running around, you know, putting flyer on that ain't gonna happen, right? So it's gonna be the resident that's probably gonna have to do that. And then in that instance, the resident, they could figure it out, I'll just tell my neighbors that I got a delivery coming tomorrow, and maybe they'll be kind enough and move their cars out of there, or maybe the truck can double park and put the hazards on, and I'll be here. So I just don't know what's the incentive for the resident to do it? What's the punishment, or if, or the implication if you don't do it?
Yeah, so I think the incentive is just to know that you're going to have that space on the curb and not to have to worry about the double parking, and especially if the double parking is causing cars not be able to pass. So I think just knowing that you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to do a headache.
And then in that instance, the only people that would be worried about that is if we were unloading the trucks, right? Because if you're not unloading the truck, where do you care? Right? So if I'm moving and I'm going to be there with the moving truck, and, you know, my brother and cousins and everyone's pitching in, then we're going to want that truck to be kind of right out in front of the house. It just makes the job easier. But if that's contracted out, it's kind of not really on you. And you know that the truck company's not going to pay these things and leaflet and flyer. So I just don't know if there's a, one, if is there really a need for it? And two, who's going to take advantage of it? And three, are we limiting that time, and are we gonna have a tiered, like 2 hours is $25, 4 hours is $50, 6 hours is, but, yeah, 7 AM to 5 PM, I don't know if that dog's gonna hunt, in densely populated neighborhoods, but if you had a sort of a tiered structure, that may make some sense here, I don't know, just food for thought.
Yep.
I wish we actually had representatives from the trucking industry here, which, we could potentially do that in a working session, just to get, their thoughts and ideas around whether or not, you know, the folks in the trucking industry would, if they think this is a good idea, would they take advantage of it? You know, that type of stuff. Is it too onerous? But any other thoughts, Tim? No. You have any other thoughts as we're talking about it? Or then just the bonds, the bond piece of it, so I understand, in the moving situation, a bond is required? No longer required?
No longer.
So in this particular instance, there'd be no bond required either on that, right?
Exactly.
And then the placard that the folks would pick up to post,
Yep.
would we be filling in the date and the time, or would be leaving it up to them to fill in the date and the time?
So we would print a sticker that said the date and time
And
that
put it on it.
they would then have to post on to the
Okay,
placard.
gotcha. So it'll be, so sort of, you would be able to manage the window and the time and the date and that kind of stuff, so, okay.
And the real change in this ordinance is people could already reserve space on the curb if they wanted to through a general parking occupancy permit. The big change is removing the bond to make it easier for a resident.
Okay, and then so we're really talking about situations in sort of a homeowner situation where they're having, say, a furniture delivery. If we can go down to, you know, the local Main Street, the local business district, and you got sort of a 7-Eleven or a, you know, corner store, and they're getting a delivery, how does this play into sort of the small commercial piece of it?
Yep. So I think we're not envisioning that small commercial businesses using it, because I don't think it's worth it, because it's a 5-minute, 10-minute delivery happening every day.
Gotcha.
And they could, if they wanted it, I think we would have heard a demand already, but we haven't heard anything from the business community. And it's more we're hearing from residents asking, hey, I want to reserve space because we know, they're going to come and change my washing machine out. They're going to be there for an hour.
Okay. And then on the construction side, having construction vehicles coming up and lifting, drywall or stuff on the roof, HVAC units and stuff, where you have a truck and a crane, and I would assume that there's some there's already something in place to
Yeah.
kind of handle that stuff.
Yeah, so like anything with a boom would not be able to use this permit. They have to have a separate permit plus a scaffolding permit. So I think we'd be really concerned if a truck like that used this permit because it's a different circumstance.
And then does the size of the delivery vehicle matter? Could it be a van versus a straight job versus a tractor trailer?
Yeah, so I think we have up to 2 spaces, and so I think a tractor trailer wouldn't fit in that. So I think it's based, I don't know exact length of vehicle, but it wouldn't be beyond 2 parking spaces, which I think is like a normal size moving truck.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that? Well, I appreciate your time and attention, Dan. So it's my understanding that action would need to be taken on this matter by Wednesday, so that's either the council can approve it or they can reject it, or reject it without prejudice. But my sense is I'll reach out to some folks in sort of in the trucking industry, if you will, just to kind of get their thoughts on whether or not they need it. And then we may need to fine tune the length of time when streets or spots, if you will be kind of high-hosied for delivery. And again, I think 7 to 5 may be a little bit on the long side. I'd like to kind of tighten that up again, and I don't know what that magic number is. Is it 2 hours? Is it 4 hours? Is it 6? Or do we have a sliding scale?
Yep.
I don't know if that makes any sense from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So
Yeah.
let me get back to you and to
Yeah,
my colleagues and
that'd
talk
be
it
great if you
through.
could.
But I think that
Yeah,
is,
I mean-
yeah, it makes a lot of
Yeah, we can
sense.
just chew on that. If it's 2 hours is $25, 4 hours is $50, and, whatever, if it's anything over that, I mean, you can't get a garage spot, for that cheap, and then they're gonna take a whole, 2 spaces of, off the street for the day. That, it's gonna be kind of tough for folks, so. Okay, that concludes this hearing. It's an ordinance to create a parkway or street occupancy permit for delivery vehicles, docket 1150. The Committee on Government Operations will be adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.